What's up everybody, my name is Kyle, and today I'm going to review The Batman. Directed by Matt Reeves, this film follows the Caped Crusader 2 years into fighting crime, where he comes across the Riddler, a sadistic serial killer who begins murdering key political figures in Gotham. Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. Batman, Bruce Wayne, played by Robert Pattinson, from the high school vampire that girls adore to the suited up caped vampire that guys adore. Wait, what? I say vampire as that's kind of how I would describe the Bruce Wayne side of the character. Looks like he hasn't seen the sun at all in Gotham, which would make sense as he states he is more nocturnal. I do like the edgier version of Bruce we get in this film, but I have to admit this is probably the weakest part of Robert Pattinson's version. He comes across as a bit emo. I was half expecting this to happen. Mind you, this is a younger version of Bruce. He hasn't figured everything out yet, and right now really depends on himself and prefers to be more Batman than Bruce Wayne. Speaking of Batman, wow. What a performance! The first glimpse we get of him stepping out of the shadows gave me chills. Definitely has a gothic vibe to him, not to mention that intimidating presence. This version of Batman is very grounded, very back to basics with gadgets, but still has a really cool robust batsuit. I like the eye contact camera lenses, which he uses to record everything for documentation. That's a cool piece of tech, but must be annoying to take out and put in. Batman in this film plays more of a detective role, and honestly, I'm here for that. This is straight out of the comics too, and yeah, I have to admit too that as a detective he wasn't the best, but considering he's 2 years into this, he didn't do too badly. I like how we don't see Thomas and Martha Wayne getting killed in the alleyway again. Like Spider-Man in the MCU, it's implied, and by now you already know the story. Catwoman, Selina Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz. Damn, she was badass. The only Catwoman that I can recall is Anne Hathaway, but I definitely feel like Zoe Kravitz was more at home with the role. Selina, similarly to Bruce, is also playing detective as she's trying to find out what happened to her girlfriend Annika. This leads to her and the Bat working together as a dynamic duo who fit very well in this contemporary gothic, edgy Gotham. Similarly, like this version of Batman, this is also a fresh and early version of Catwoman, but she definitely knows how to fight. Zoe Kravitz allegedly prepared for her fight scenes by watching clips of cats fighting each other. Although they both parted ways at the end of the film, it's obvious that Selina will return to Gotham, and we can only hope she will fight alongside Batman.
I'm vengeance.
Oh, sorry. Vengeance! The Riddler, played by Paul Dano. Well, if you ever want someone to play a creepy serial killer, then Paul Dano is the man for the job. After watching the film, I almost didn't recognise that he was in the Prisoners film, and he was pretty creepy in that too, despite being innocent. Whereas in this, he's more of a sadistic killer. You definitely get those Halloween vibes when seeing him appear on screen, certainly when we first get introduced to him and we see him just standing there behind the mayor in the dark with only the white glow of the TV reflecting off his glasses. That was so creepy. The riddles he did throughout the film were pretty interesting, as well as the cards he sent to the Batman. It definitely reminded me of the Zodiac film. Despite being imprisoned, I think the Riddler still technically kind of won. He killed all the corrupt leaders of Gotham, and not to mention, flooded the whole city. As well as this, he taunted the Batman at the end of the film with potentially knowing who he really is. And of course, he's not in Arkham Asylum alone, and has already appeared to have made friends with someone who definitely sounds like our good old clown friend. Favourite sequences? The opening sequence. Everything about the opening sequence is perfect and sets the tone of the film up well. The narration really adds to the tension of the scene. I really like how it sets up the context and leads us to the first introduction of the Batman. As well as this, the heavy rain adds to the grimy, dark and depressing city of Gotham and creates that bleak atmosphere, basically emphasising how bad the city is. I like how there are different crimes being committed and all the criminals look to the shadows in fear that the Bat is lurking. Then you get the narration from Bruce saying, "I am the shadows." Ooh.
Oh, chills. Literal chills.
The train station sequence was so eerie, like straight out of a horror film. The low lighting and dark dull colours really heightened the sequence. Batman's hand-to-hand combat was really good, very ruthless, like Punisher-esque. He really provokes that fear, despite there being more crimes being committed. Car chase sequence. Oh, you know for a fact that I like this scene. This is everything that I want from a car chase scene. The moment the Batmobile roared into life in that sinister hunting for prey way, well, I have an erection. Seriously, this iteration of the Batmobile is so cool. It's effectively a muscle car with a flamethrower at the back. It's got a Mad Max aesthetic to it almost, and definitely fits into this version of Gotham well. The camera angles throughout this scene were incredible. I liked how they were mounted to the front and rear of the cars to make it feel immersive and give that sensation of speed. The editing definitely felt chaotic in nature to provoke that tension, and also that everything feels out of control. Not to mention, we had explosions and fire, feeling like a Fast and Furious film, but better. Much better. I really love the Penguin's reaction when he looks in his mirror and he just sees the Batmobile coming out of the flames. And you see his face and it's just like, oh no! Oh shit. Escaping the police. I think this is probably one of the only times we actually see the Batman escaping. Usually when we pan to the Batman when he's talking to Commissioner Gordon, for example, he disappears, but this was more of a realistic take on what actually happens. I love the camera angle that's tilted down on him as he uses a grappling hook to winch himself up through the building. It really also shows the chaos that ensues in the background as the police try to chase him. But the pinnacle of this scene is his exit from the building, which ironically is in a flight suit, which makes him look more like a bat as he flies out of the building. I also like the initial hesitation he has before he jumps off the building. He looks down and realises how high up he really is. He's only been doing this for 2 years, so I can't imagine he's jumped off of many high buildings. The good points of this film. Cast. As ever with a big superhero film like this, we have an excellent cast. Colin Farrell is in this film playing the Penguin, and he really gives you that mob leader vibe. I was actually surprised that it was Colin Farrell. The prosthetic makeup really is incredible. Jeffrey Wright plays Commissioner Gordon. I like his depiction of the character. He's really at the end of his rope and is willing to work with and trust the Batman. Andy Serkis plays Alfred. I actually liked this version of the character, but it's a shame we didn't get too much of him, and I genuinely thought he died in the explosion. Narration. I never knew that I needed this in a Batman film, but I'm all for it. The narration by Bruce really contrasts well with the setting and really feels like a crime novel or detective noir film. It really adds to the tone of the film. Cinematography. My god, this was so rich and beautiful. The creativity of some of the camera shots were excellent, certainly conveying the attention to detail within the frame. I really noticed this in the sequence where Catwoman is trying to break into the safe. We get those extreme close-up shots of her twisting the dial on the safe, as well as close-ups of her eyes. Atmosphere. If a film can make you feel how it looks in the film, then it's done a great job. The constant use of heavy rain, low-level lighting and use of shadows, as well as the almost noir colour hue, really makes you feel that the city of Gotham is depressing, dark and dangerous. Just as well as I don't think we're supposed to find Gotham a lovely inviting place to be, I really liked how gothic the aesthetics of the city are. Action. Yes, as a comic book superhero film, we are not short of action. The style of the action is definitely more grounded in comparison to the Bale films, with less dramatisation. It feels more brutal and ruthless. I keep coming back to this, but the style of the fighting really reminds me of the Daredevil and Punisher series, and that is definitely a positive thing because it feels more raw and realistic. Style. This is definitely more of the style of a detective noir film, a crime genre and thriller. My friend says if you've seen the Zodiac, Seven and Prisoners, then this film will remind you of them, and he's right. The bad points of this film. People/normal cinema goers. Yeah, that sounds like a weird thing to say, but basically those who aren't really fans of Batman or DC and are just casual cinema goers. I've seen a few reviews of this film prior to seeing it myself, and a lot of people find this film depressing. They find Gotham too bleak and miserable. I think someone even said, "Don't they have lights in Gotham?" I don't think they understand that this film isn't supposed to be happy. Gotham isn't supposed to be an inviting place, and you're supposed to feel unsettled. If you want light-hearted, bright colour palettes and tons of humour, then it's probably best if you watch an MCU film. Can Robert Pattinson escape the typecast vampire? Now, unfortunately, this is something not uncommon in Hollywood where a specific actor will be typecast in such a role. For instance, Tom Hollander's Spider-Man / a high schooler. I feel that people will nowadays just see him as that web-slinging teenager from Queens and not be taken into consideration to be in something more serious. He has appeared in some indie films playing an assortment of characters, but certainly in those big blockbusters, I worry that people just go, "Oh look, it's Spider-Man!" Arguably it's the same story as Daniel Radcliffe, where you just still see him as Harry Potter, which of course leads me to Robert Pattinson, who appeared as Edward Cullen in the teen flick Twilight. I feel like some people still see him like that, especially in this, and certainly in other films, but I hope that now, people can move past those teen dramas and don't typecast him. So in conclusion, I would give The Batman a 9.5 out of 10. This is everything that I've wanted to see in a Batman film. The tone, the atmosphere, the style of this film as a detective noir thriller is perfect. The acting and cast are brilliant. I certainly can appreciate and be excited for Robert Pattinson as the new Batman. The entire narrative was gripping, tense and exciting. Matt Reeves has certainly delivered a fantastic film that I hope to see more than once. While I understand and enjoyed this film, I guess it doesn't appeal to those who are accustomed to superhero films being like the MCU and can't understand the depressing nature of the film as well as the dark gritty style. Some may have found the runtime too lengthy, but I honestly don't notice or care. While I enjoyed Pattinson's version of the Batman, maybe I need more time to understand his edgy and somewhat emo version of Bruce Wayne. So comment down below what you thought of the Batman, what were your favourite characters, what were your favourite sequences, and what would you like to see in a potential sequel? Like and subscribe and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!